Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who know who Thomas Trang is. Thomas
Yes.
Trang is an author currently based in the UK. He was born in London, but has lived all over the map: Sydney, Paris, Singapore, New York, and Manchester. He is the author of the forthcoming Asteroid Savage trilogy, 2026, and the neo-noir crime novel Dark Neon and Dirt from 2025. His stories have appeared in Future Quake, Rock and a Hard Place, Full House Literary, Punk Noir, and Shotgun Honey. Asteroid Savage is a high stakes science fiction thrill ride, perfect for fans of The Expanse, Titanborn, and Altered Carbon, as well as I think you and I were chatting about this on Twitter. There's this terrific book by John Brunner called Stand on Zanzibar that I think is very similar and also great. And
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
eh,
I'm sorry to cut you off there.
yes,
It's good to be here, but yeah, you mentioned that book, and I genuinely never heard of it. And I went and looked it up and just read a brief thing about it on Wikipedia, and I was kind of shocked that there's some very peculiar similarities, shall we say,
yes.
just on the surface of things. I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly what it's about, but yeah, some very strange coincidental similarities there.
Well, yeah, it's a weird book. I discovered it because David Brin had this list of really cool books that he suggested people check out. And of course, Bruner's more known for his book Sheep Look Up, which is about like the world becoming a toxic waste dump and what it'd be like to live in that. But Stand on Zanzibar is about a future where there are a lot of people. We all live inside weather managed domes,
Yeah.
and they've reinstituted colonialism. So there's this sort of idea that the undeveloped places would in fact benefit from active management
Hmm.
and active investment. And because no one is willing to invest in them without it, all the former sort of colonial functionaries within the British government who didn't have work between 1950 and when this book was set in like 2015 sort of return and create these kind of weird businesses, and they're terrorists. And the two characters are roommates. One of them's a secret agent, and the other one is a sort of mid-level business executive slash lawyer.
Hmm.
Uh, and this sort of mystery about terrorism unfolds within this dome. It's an interesting book.
Yeah, yeah. The more the more you mentioned about it, the more I thought, huh, yeah, I can see why. If you've read that and then you've read mine, you can. There are some through lines there, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's the dome,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yours, yeah, but that's because yours takes place in space.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I did. There was a review that I saw that got quite irate about some aspects of the book, and it said, "Oh well, there's this book about terraforming Mars, but then a lot of the action takes place inside of buildings and streets, which suggests that it's taking place on Mars. And how can you be having things happening on Mars and people driving around, if it's being terraformed? Think of the radiation." And I always say, look, once your book's out there, people can review it, and they can say whatever they want, and that's part of the deal. That's the contract you
Yeah.
sign when you put it out there. But it took all of my sort of every fiber in my being not to rise to the sort of um, to respond and say, look, did you even read the book? Because I thought, I mean, even on the first page or even the first line, it sets a tone that
Yeah.
it's happening around Mars, not on Mars. I mean, there is some stuff
Yeah.
that happens on the surface of Mars, and then of course you start second guessing yourself, thinking, God, maybe it was so sort of obvious to me because I wrote the thing. Maybe maybe I wasn't clear in that, because I think you've said this to me before. One of the main things you want to do as a writer is not confuse the reader, because that's when you start losing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But I didn't find the book confusing at all. The other thing that I found is that some people don't read every word or every sentence.
no, I guess you
And
missed them multiple times. I mentioned the geodesic domes and all the rest. And he got very upset because the book called Asteroid Savage. He said, I don't think any of this book actually takes place on an asteroid. And I had to sort of stop and think, well, I mean, part of it happens in the asteroid belt in
yeah.
another big sort of mega domed city, but most of it's, around Mars. And then I thought, well, this guy probably got mad when he watched Chinatown and said, hey, none of this is set in Chinatown. And so, you know, maybe he felt, it was false advertising. But I think, I've always maintained that the book, and I've said this in previous sort of interviews and things, that, it is science fiction. I'm happy for it to be called science fiction.
Yes.
But in a way, it's almost like a political thriller that just happens to be set in the future.
Oh yeah, yeah, no. Well, this is why, like I said, I compared it to Stand on Zanzibar, which takes place on Earth.
Mm,
And basically it having, elements of a political thriller. The book is a political thriller set across the vastness of space.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with talking about terrorism and talking about, the sort of societies that would erect themselves and governments that would erect themselves in different points, and the challenges that would particularly be faced by private corporations who are funding all this, only
Mm.
to have it blow up in their face.
Yeah, okay. Now this is starting to sound, more and more, you know, in the same vein of Asteroid Savage. Yeah. So Asteroid
Mm.
Savage is the first book, and then it's the first of a trilogy. And the publisher, God bless them, they said, we're going to do it in quick succession. So the second one's coming out early July, and then the final one will come out sometime in August. So, like I said
I
before, the Summer of Trang.
Yeah, the Summer of Trang. The most surreal part of that is that they're doing anything quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a complete opposite. I was very slow writing them, but once they got the
Yeah.
completed manuscripts, they're like, boom, let's go. Because the third book, especially, it took me forever to finish, and I think it was one of those things where you paint or you write yourself into a corner, and then you get
Yeah.
to the third book, you're like, oh, I've got to
Tie
make
it
this
up.
all make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that took a while, and the other thing I'd sort of done with this trilogy is the first book I actually wrote it before Dark Neon and Dirt, and I still had that kind of, I don't know what you call it. I know Uncle Turley calls it like an arrowhead structure, where you have two characters that are sort of on a parallel track, but they're slowly,
Yeah.
the stories are
Approaching
slowly
one another.
converging
Yeah.
into like an arrowhead. I sort of call it the AB because and then sometimes they cross over, they meet, and then usually it sort of becomes one kind of
Hmm.
train track at the end. The second book is very much, it just follows one character who
Hmm.
who moves around, and things happen. But the third book, I thought, each book I want to do something different narrative wise, and so the third one I sort of had this idea, it's going to be like a pass the baton structure. So it opens with the point of view of one character, and then his kind of story happens, and then the second part, he's sort of a background player in the story, and then that happens, and then by the third sort of almost like the third act,
Hmm.
it starts to resolve itself, but then it sort of moves to another sort of set of characters. But each one just is like a relay race, and that seems very clever. And it's all kind of in a 3 act structure, and then each section has its own kind of 3 act structure. But I sort of started it, got about 10,000 words into it, and just realized I had no idea what I was doing or where it was going. I had to sort of stop and take a step back and figure out how to do it properly. And so that took a lot longer than I expected to. But when it was done, sort of late last year, earlier this year, I finally sent it off. They gave it a quick edit and went back and forth on a few things, and they were just like, "Yeah, let's go." I mean, but this publisher, Aethon, yeah, I think you're quite familiar with them.
Hmm.
Um, they are, they're an indie press, but they very kind of well-oiled machine. Um, they do a lot of this science fiction, fantasy. They do a lot of this lit RPG, which I'm not overly familiar with it, but I mean, it's super popular.
Yeah,
You've had,
it's video game. I mean,
yeah,
it's sort of it's kind of this like we've all been raised on like video game narratives and the
mm,
construction of character and the gamified element. And of course,
yeah,
Brandon Sanderson has a gamified element. My daughter and my wife were reading this. I think it's this book about like the dragon games, and the whole
mm,
idea is that you have to, complete the game and win the game, and then you get the power, and then you have a new challenge, and all that sort of stuff. And it's
yeah,
become
yeah,
pretty ubiquitous. I think it's tied in mostly um, to sort of a way of understanding magical or sort of other types of systems, and like almost a quick because I had Seth Ring on, and Seth Ring is big into
yeah.
lit RPG. It's not to my taste.
No,
If I want to,
yeah, I'm still, I'm not that familiar with it. When it was kind of explained to me, I thought, oh, so it's like a book with video game elements. I said, like Ready Player One, and I said, no,
no,
not
no.
really. I said, no, it's like an actual, like you're actually in a game.
Yeah.
And I mean, I gotta be honest,
Yeah, but
I've never been a,
it's not a choose your own adventure, which I thought
yeah,
it
yeah,
was. I was
yeah,
like, oh, so it's a choose your own adventure. They're like, oh no, it's not a choose your own adventure. And then I'm like, well, yeah, but it's a game. And they're like, no, it's not a game. It's like you're reading along with a player playing the game. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I, my sort of perspective, as you know, is that I actually don't want to put myself in a position. I want the author to take me on a journey that is clever and fun and
right,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that, and I've never. And it makes me think of some of the guys in my office. I catch them doing stuff. So what are you doing? Are you playing video games? He said, no, 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 I'm watching someone else play a video game. So what, people do that? And it's like, yeah, yeah. I thought, okay, fair enough. I mean, I've never
Why
been
would
a
you
big,
do that?
I
Why
don't
would
know,
you watch somebody else do it?
I've never been a big gamer. I think I had like a Street Fighter 2 thing when I was much younger, and that was
Yeah.
kind of popular. But I never had the dedication to get good at these things. Um, I don't think it ever really interested me. I think I was more of like an outside kind of person. And there's only one point in my life where it was actually the first time I lived in London when I was about 14, 15. Before I moved to Paris, I was in London for a couple of months just doing passport stuff and going to school. And I was staying with some family friends, and the woman had a Sega Game Gear for some reason. And I played
Nice.
one of the it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I think.
That's a
Because
good
I did at
Sonic
the
the
time I didn't
Hedgehog.
really know anyone, and I was kind of I was younger anyway, so I started playing this game. And I got really good at it. I got to the point where I could finish the game, but by the time I got that good at it, I realized that all it is just remembering. Okay, when you get to this level, 2 clicks right, 1 click left.
Yeah.
and that's all it was. And I know video games have come a long way since Sonic the Hedgehog, but
I
it's
mean,
just
I mean,
never.
ultimately, all those classic games were just timing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
that effectively a video game is just back then was just about timing. Can you
Mm.
time this correctly? Can you recognize the pattern and time it correctly? And I don't know, that bores me.
Yeah, that was the thing. I'm exactly the same. Once I got good at it, I just realized, oh, there's just nothing. There's nothing to it. And and when things like Grand Theft Auto came along, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But I just
Yeah,
never.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't have enough hours in the day to do everything I want to do anyway. I
This
thought,
is this is the peril of
it
like
seems a bit
the
strange to start
dad.
now. Yeah,
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 of like the dad experience is like just not having the time. Like I would only play video games if I wanted to turn off my brain at this point. You know what
mm.
I mean?
Yeah. I've got Yellowstone for that. I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone. It's
Oh,
great.
you have? I hate
Yeah, actually, my
Yellowstone.
wife and I just watched the latest episode of Dutton Ranch. I'm full of surprises, aren't I? Yeah,
I
I'm quite
I
into it. It's
I
really stupid, but it's quite addictive.
the redhead is
Mm.
so annoying. The way that she became the main sort of agent of action in
You
later
mean
seasons.
Beth?
Yeah, Beth, the way she became the agent of action in later seasons was just painful. It was every scene she's there. I'm doing it for dad. I'll
Yeah,
do it for you, daddy. I'll do it for you, daddy. And I'm just
yeah,
like, and she's a complete psychopath. And I'm just watching this and I'm like, at some point, maybe you don't do it for him. Maybe
yeah.
you say, hey, uh, uh, perhaps our lifestyle is not conducive with the modern world. Maybe we should try some high intensity
Maybe we should sell
cattle
out.
raising. Maybe, yeah, maybe we become benefactors and we plan to just hand this thing over as a national park at the end of all this.
Mm.
And particularly with the season with her brother, where she gets the brother to kill his dad.
Yeah, we just got. Yeah,
I was
that's where we
just
got to. Yeah,
I
we
was
just
just
finished
like
that.
I was like this the it's not interesting because the Jamie character is just a sniveling loser.
Yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know what
kind of
I
how I
mean?
felt.
Like
Yeah,
like it's not
he's not even a
interesting.
tragic figure. He's just a
He's
complete
just a
loser.
complete
Yeah,
loser.
yeah,
It's like, well, first of all, forgive me, Taylor Sheridan, who has $1 billion, while I have not published anything. But let me just say this. If you have one character who was not born into the family and was adopted and was elevated to be like a consigliere, and you have
mm,
another character who is not born into the family, who is sort of like
yeah,
Rip, those are your antagonists. Those two characters should interact. They never speak. They
no,
never
they
speak
don't.
in the entire show. There's never a single moment where Jamie and Rip speak. And then the other brother from who is in the military,
Yeah,
he's like off doing uh vision quests. And you don't
yeah.
even hear from him for an entire season. I'm like,
I
what
couldn't,
is this?
I couldn't work out what was going on because at the start of the show, he was with
He
his
was the
Native
guy.
American
That was the
wife,
whole thing. Yeah.
and he was like, "No, I don't want anything to do with my dad and the family business." I was like, "Okay, so he's one of those characters." But then
Yeah.
he sort of comes back on board, and he's like, totally, I'm with you, Dad. We're doing it. And I said, when did this happen? Like, when did he
Yeah.
suddenly
He
just
doesn't
change his
even
mind?
resist. He's the
Yeah,
one who should be the Jamie character,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anyway, this bugged me, and my poor wife had to deal with it because she wanted to just watch the show, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, why don't Rip and Jamie ever speak to one another? Like Jamie goes and lives in the bunkhouse, and he still doesn't talk to Rip. The
Yeah,
two
that was a
men never
strange. Yeah,
interact.
yeah.
They
You know
never
who I want to see
interact.
a spin-off for is the cook they've got at Yellowstone because he's been in there since the beginning and he
Oh,
never
I
says
love that
anything.
character. I love that character. And I won't I'm not going to be too hard on Taylor Sheridan because he did create Mayor of Kingstown, which
Yeah,
has two excellent seasons, and then the third season it just careens off a cliff and became unwatchable.
I don't think I ever got to the third season. I
Yeah.
just, yeah, Mary Kingstown, it started really well, but then, I mean, I won't spoil it, but in the very first episode, they kill one of the main characters, which
Yeah,
is a
they
thing
killed
that Taylor
Coach.
Sheridan does. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
they
thought,
killed
wait,
Coach.
that's like 60% of the reason why I wanted to watch this
I
show.
know that. I know that. I had the same feeling. I actually kind of liked that Taylor Sheridan hatefully killed Coach Taylor
Yeah,
from Friday Night Lights.
yeah.
I love
And
that
then
character. I've been
but
I've been watching him since I forget what his name is, that actor, but I've been watching him since Early Edition,
early
which is
edition,
yeah,
yes,
which was a
yeah,
great show. Which was a
yeah. It was
great speculative fiction show.
it's kind of mad that they turned that into a whole show where he just
Oh,
gets
it
the
was on
newspaper the
for
day
for
early and goes
years.
around solving crimes or fixing things.
Yeah, it was on for years,
Yeah, yeah.
which is really funny. The but yeah, but I like Landman.
I
I
like
like
Landman. Yeah,
I like the older son in Landman. I think he's really funny. And I like the wife and the
yeah.
way she
She's
makes him
nuts.
sit down
Yeah,
for dinner. She's like a classic borderline and it's really funny.
yeah. I think the thing with Landman is, I mean, I've because of my day job, I know a little bit about the Permian Basin and oil
Yeah.
and that whole kind of shale oil and gas revolution because I'm actually old enough to remember when that was still, oh, we don't know how that's going to affect
Yeah.
it. It's the jury's still out, and then now, of course, it completely revolutionized the
Yes.
oil markets, and so when I was much younger, sort of starting out in that business. So yeah, it's sort of interesting just to see like, oh, that aspect of it. But then Taylor Sheridan being Taylor Sheridan, it's kind of just thrown in
Oh
with
yeah,
some
it's gotta
weird
get
like
weird.
psychodrama and just just really odd stuff. I don't know whether this guy's ever met a woman before because the way he writes them is just nuts. But um,
What was it? You're gonna like, well, you'll like my book when it eventually comes out because I talk about the shale gas and
mm,
hydrological fracking
yeah,
in North Dakota is a big
okay,
part of
yeah,
my
yeah,
book.
okay, cool.
Yes,
That is coming
because
out. I heard you
I know
on another
it.
podcast.
Well, I have a commitment letter, but that and a bag of sand will. I have a
Yeah.
commitment letter, a signed commitment letter, but hopefully we'll be announcing soon.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
yeah, but yeah, it's really funny that Taylor Sheridan has basically taken over American TV, and there are 6 million characters. It's funny. You know how Kevin Costner lost all his money on on his Western movies. He did that
That's
like he was
right.
going to do
Yeah.
that 9 hour epic. So
Like Waterworld wasn't enough. He just wanted to come back and
well,
just
and then he left Yellowstone, and Yellowstone's insanely successful. He leaves Yellowstone. And then someone mentioned that he was down in the Caribbean,
mm,
scuba diving for sunken treasure. And I immediately knew what he was doing. And me and my wife were down in Key West, and we
mm,
went to my wedding ring is actually made from Atosha silver. The Atosha was a very famous shipwreck.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
a Spanish silver galleon. And I immediately knew that he'd been diving on the Atosha, and we went to the Mel Fisher like Atosha store, which is really fun, and everyone should go to the museum and learn about the shipwreck, the Atosha shipwreck. And I was like, so, is he out there right now? And the guy, I can't tell you that. And then I'm like, yeah, but he is, right? And then he's like, let's just say he's a nice guy. So
Yeah,
Kevin Costner's just been down in Key West for was down in Key West for 6 months, diving the Etosha every day.
that's like the most Kevin Costner thing I've ever heard.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, my wife was. I mean, she likes Kevin Costner from, I guess, from The Bodyguard.
Oh, great
Because she,
movie.
yeah, yeah, and so, and I made her watch No Way Out a couple of years ago because you got to watch this film. Have you
Hmm.
seen that one?
I
But
haven't seen
he's
it.
well, okay. Well, it's one of the first films I saw. I think it's from '87, something like that. I
Yeah.
would have seen it a couple of years after that as a kid, and I'll just say that it's the first film I saw that had like a genuine twist ending.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, like it just completely like rearranged my brain. I thought, oh, you can actually just do that in a film or in a story, or just completely pull the rug out from under the audience.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, we've been watching Yellowstone, and she's just she just doesn't get like why just Kevin Costner's deal. Like, why is he just so grumpy, and why is he this way? Because we actually watched the 1883 and 1923 prequels first.
Yeah.
We did everything ass backwards. Um, but we've been totally Sheridan Peele. It's like quite true, and this has just turned into like a Yellowstone podcast now. So.
I know that. I know that. Well, the Sheridan story structure is like a how do I describe it? It's roadblocks, right? Everything's a
Mm,
roadblock. And then the character is in like the penultimate episode presented with like a moment to either win or lose. And that's how he writes them.
mm,
Uh, and uh, and I watch it. I watch it because it's funny, but the sort of like folksy lecturing from Taylor Sheridan on the way of masculinity and life and all these other things is really I I I I could do without it.
yeah, I mean, some of it, it's very strange because
It must
some
be
of the
very foreign to you being in
it is, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. He's like you guys Shakespeare now, isn't he?
yeah.
He's the epitome of just that kind of um rugged masculine individualism.
Well, it's I think it's elevating working class values, right?
Yeah.
It's basically saying that like working class people actually know how the world works. And but as you and I both know, there are limits to what working class people are capable of doing and the stakes they're capable of achieving, and the victories they're capable of achieving monetarily, and the sort of movement that they're able to have. Whereas if you take like a land baron, like Kevin Costner's character, or you
Mm,
take the head of an oil company, like he's gritty down in the muck, working class values, but the stakes are that much higher because the money's flying and he's able to
yeah.
move and he has the freedom to act. Because if it was just like a guy working at a factory or one of the guys working on the rig itself, what do you get? You get train dreams.
Yeah. It's
You know,
low stakes. Yeah.
it's low stakes. It's low stakes. It's satisfying in a lot of ways, and you can have like a satisfying show doing that. I mean, I think one of the great American sitcoms is Roseanne,
Mm,
which portrayed like the life of working class people, and portrayed it in a way where like the triumphs were very subtle, and it was all about like holding together type of
yeah.
thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is um, an interesting thing and hadn't really been That the idea of like hardship as a character in a
Mm.
sitcom. Yeah, obviously you don't see that in Friends, you don't see that in Seinfeld. It's outside of the spectrum of experience. But Roseanne sort of introduced hardship as a character.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think it's also that kind of that the how would you say, like the heartland of America versus the coastal elites, because I
yeah,
think uh, Yellowstone was described, or at least in my head, it existed long before I watched it, as um, redneck succession or something,
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
That's what it
You know,
is. Yeah, yeah. It's like it has panache and the characters have, sort of like an honor or precedence. It was funny when I started this podcast and I was initially getting into publishing and I was learning about it. There was literally I would go on and see what agents are like, and they're like, anything about Montana?
yeah.
Montana's very big right now. Like that's what they wanted. It was anything about Montana. Like if you could give them something about Montana, that was the best-selling book
Mm.
is books about Montana.
And I
And
don't know writers who. I mean, if you happen to have written something about Montana, great. But I don't know. It's this whole thing where, I mean, you remember when the Da Vinci Code was like the biggest thing, and everyone
well,
wanted
yeah,
like
yeah.
something
The
like that, the
yeah, the
Shakespeare puzzle or whatever.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they,
Well, I was talking to Mark Gottlieb, who's the
mm,
agent, was talking about how no one saw that coming. Like the
yeah,
Da Vinci Code was just this thing, like there are a lot of people of faith, but no one realized that like the mystique and the mythos of faith
mm,
mixed with a mystery that was sort of um, linguistically dumbed down plus uh, uh, kind of like non-critical almost.
yeah, and a
You
lot
know
of
what
it
I
from
mean?
memory is like a lot of reads like Wikipedia entries, so you kind of feel like you're
Yeah.
learning something while you're on this kind of
Yeah, exactly. It's like
mystery
it's like
ride.
you experience this like mystery that's about mythos, but it's not critical of the mythos. It's presented as like this interesting the sites and the churches and all these other things. And I mean, I suppose someone should have figured out that like church symbolism would be interesting to people
Mm,
given the sheer number of people that go and fixate on medieval churches in
yeah,
England and elsewhere. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think it was in France at that point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's interesting, which gets us to the question of film and
Mm,
the question of who should be the next James Bond, which you and I
yeah, yeah.
and
Those,
I and I actually watched Doctor No. I rewatched Doctor No and I rewatched Goldfinger. And I've read those books. And what's funny to me is that everyone is so sort of fastidious about James Bond these days. Like they're so fixated. It has to be this way and this way. If you read those books, they're completely madcap lunacy.
mm,
The and if you watch the early movies, they're so good, but they're completely bizarre.
mm,
Yeah, the crux of Goldfinger, I forgot this, is that Bond basically has sex with Pussy Galore, and then
yeah,
she switches to his side because he's so irresistible and handsome.
yeah. Well, I have a theory about James Bond and the kind of the way that people. I mean, my sort of relationship with James Bond is I'm of that age where the first one I would have seen as a kid was A View
Brosnan.
to it. No, no,
No,
Roger Moore.
no, was
Yeah,
Roger Moore. Yeah,
yeah. So, um, like A View to a Kill or something like that.
yeah,
Um, and he was just kind of like really arch, and he was just kind of he played it like it was kind of goofy. So in
yeah.
my head, James Bond's always just been a bit tongue in cheek. But then I don't know. I guess that all changed with. I mean, Brosnan was kind of like, you know, if you asked AI to make James Bond, it would spit out
Yeah, it
something
would
that
come out
looked
with
like his. But
Brosnan.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think he was perfect for that.
No,
And
no,
then I
I
think,
think everyone has said this, and it's always who's the best Bond, Connery or more. But in
mm,
reality, Pierce Brosnan is what Fleming had in mind. That's what
yeah,
James Bond looks
absolutely,
like.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And he's Irish, and Sean Connery's Scottish. And
yes,
so this whole idea that English guys get so irate about, the idea that James Bond could be, Asian, or he could be Idris
yes,
Elba, or God forbid, a woman. I mean, I just find it's just they're just telling on themselves, and I think and the thing about James Bond now is that you look at sort of Britain's sort of geopolitical standing
yeah.
as severely diminished. I mean, even before Brexit, is like a middle
I
country.
mean,
Sort of.
I've got to be honest. I'm watching from here. It doesn't look good for you guys.
No, and I think some
Scarborough
guys just
comes out
hang
with
on
an
to they just hang
opinion.
on to James Bond as like this relic of, oh, it's, this is when we used to, rule the waves, and just, we were sort of we were the top dogs.
Yes.
But it is ridiculous, and I think I said this, that, if it was, because I think with Daniel Craig, and you really saw the
Yeah.
impact of things like 24, and specifically the Bourne films.
Yeah,
He's
the
got to be gritty.
physicality.
Yeah,
It's got to be
yeah.
physical and the physicality needed to be there. Yeah.
Because I remember when Daniel Craig was first announced, people was, oh, yeah, he's blonde. He can't, he can't, he's
Yeah.
kind of, he's not good looking or suave, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were going for a specific thing. Um,
Yeah, but
I just,
I'll say this. I'll say this. Daniel Craig sort of is a weird looking guy. He looks like a big baby.
yeah,
His face looks like a baby's face, which is weird.
yeah.
But the physicality that he brought into the role
I got
get
jacked for
had
it. Yeah,
yeah, had like a real authenticity. And I did like that, but he never had the coolness of
mm,
what James Bond is all about. So I completely agree to you that it gets people get very wound up about it. And so I
yeah,
wanted to go in and I wanted to rewatch it because I knew you had your interesting take about this, which is basically the sort of vision of Britain's standing in the world.
yeah,
But even in um, Tomorrow Never Dies, when they're handing over Hong Kong and you've got this weird relationship with the Chinese government and Brosnan's in it, and I think it was Michelle Yeoh
yeah, yeah,
was the Bond girl in that, Terry Hatcher and Michelle Yeoh,
yeah,
and you have this sort of um, interesting uh, moment where the British sort of tradition of global citizenry or the sort of the dominion or what do you call it, the Commonwealth,
yeah,
that the experience of the Commonwealth kind of created James Bond. Like James Bond is a product of like the Commonwealth philosophy, the idea that there's this shared language. That's why everything's always taking place in Jamaica.
mm,
And to that extent, I think that Bond himself, as sort of this agent of the Commonwealth, is an expression of British imperial thinking,
exactly. Yeah,
British sort of this sort of like narrow road that existed post-war of Britain between the Soviet Union and the United States, and then subsequently Britain with its relationship with China. And to that extent, I thought it was so funny when you brought up that it's like this sort of like last glimmer of British self-esteem is
yeah,
having is having James Bond. And I thought that was so interesting. At the same time, um, Bond is so cool. right?
Mm.
The concept of him is so cool. And watching Dr. No and watching Goldfinger as I did last night, the sort of it's almost I would even call it like a poor man's Chandler narrative. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like Fleming was writing a pulp novel, just like
Yeah.
he was just writing a fun pulp novel with a character who said cool things and bad guys who were sort of like weird and outlandish.
Yeah. And
And
women that were disposable and sexually
and
available.
sexually available and so he created sort of a fantasy
Yeah,
that was
it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
that was sci-fi. It's a sci-fi fantasy as much as it's anything.
Mm.
And to that extent, um, it's funny to think about wanting to make that character gritty when in reality he was never really gritty. He was
Mm.
always sort of like suave and funny and charming and weird. And
Yeah, Roger Moore. Yeah.
yeah, he was Roger Moore. Yeah. Or even Connery in this,
Yeah.
like his power was that the woman would see the money and power of the bad guy
Yeah.
that would be available to them and that was presented to them and the future with the bad guy. And then they meet James Bond and they just want to bang him.
Yeah. That's why I thought that.
Like they'd turn everything, they'd throw everything away just to bang this handsome British guy who ordered weak martinis.
Yeah.
And that's so funny to me. That's such a sort of hilarious fantasy. And ultimately what goes into that is that Bond needed to be cool. He needed to be like he needs to be physically appealing to women to accomplish
Mm.
this goal. And so to that extent, I can see where people would reject the idea of like a female Bond because the whole idea is that he's like a woman's fantasy plus a
A
man's
man's. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
fantasy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Idris Elba thing I always thought was interesting because Idris Elba would be just a spectacular Bond villain. He'd be the
Mm.
greatest Bond villain because Bond villains have this dignity about them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? This sort of like interesting dignity, whereas Bond himself is just sort of like slapdick and funny.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like slapdick, funny, and cool. Whereas Dr. No was giving his hilarious speech about how he was the son of a German missionary and a Chinese prostitute. And I'm just like this is so weird. Well, this came out in 1962. That's like the
I mean, you
weirdest
can see all
thing.
that stuff in the Austin Powers films with
Oh yeah, yeah.
Doctor
It's
Evil. I mean, that's
with
just
Dr.
straight from
Evil.
Doctor No. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
just he just took the speech from Dr. No
yeah,
and then said it as Dr. Evil and it was hysterically funny.
yeah. He says,
Uh
I remember it. He's like, oh, my father was, a distant man who once claimed to invented the question mark. Yeah, and my mother was, I don't know, a streetwalker from I don't know, Bruges or something. It was something
yeah.
crazy like that. But no, I think I just got brought up. I think they are looking. Well, this is the thing. You said we're in trouble. We're currently looking for a new prime minister, a new Doctor Who, and a new James Bond. Like this country is
Oh
just
yeah.
it's just
Well, yeah, you
in
guys have
turmoil.
blown it. You guys have
Yeah,
blown it on three of your major,
yeah,
political and
yeah.
artistic exports.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people they lost their minds when there was a female Doctor Who, and we've had female prime ministers before, and it's never really worked out.
I think my
Um,
favorite thing was who will last longer as prime minister, Liz Truss or a head of cabbage, or no,
yeah,
who's going to last longer, this head of cabbage or Liz Truss?
the
Uh,
cabbage one. Yeah,
yeah. Well, her seemingly about ready to destroy the entire British pension system was pretty epic.
well, I think last I heard of her, she was on your side of the pond. Um,
I know she's getting involved in us.
yeah, yeah.
She's
So
come
God
to.
help you. Yeah. But I think she's doing all the right wing talk shows and how it's all, it's all a deep state conspiracy. And really, she was brilliant, but the
Oh
Illuminati
man.
wanted to keep her
Can
out of
you, by
power.
the way, can you explain to me how everyone's retirement in Britain is somehow tied to the high value of the British pound?
No, I can't.
I can't figure it out. I tried to understand like what she had done, and I was like, oh man, if that's the case and she can't print money, uh, I, we in America just print the money.
Mm,
I don't know how you guys are going to do it.
no, no. I mean, yeah, she was economically illiterate,
Yeah.
and she's not very personable. She met the
Yes.
Queen once, and then the Queen died the next day or something like that. And it was just, yeah, that was a strange experiment. But
Yeah, it didn't go well.
no, no. But now,
No, it
that
hasn't
was
gone
I think that
well.
was about two or three prime ministers ago now at this stage. So
Oh yeah, no. Rishi didn't do very well.
no, no, no.
Uh I would say um that Starmer didn't do very well, but he didn't really do anything at all.
No, it was very. I mean, even at the time, say this is like 2 years ago, he won in a quote unquote landslide victory,
Yes.
but it was more the fact that the best thing he had going for him was that he wasn't the incumbent, which sometimes
Yes.
is well, not sometimes it's often the case, but it was very strange that he sort of came to power in this landslide victory and just really had no idea
What to
what he
do with
wanted to
it.
do and what he was about. And I always tell people like this guy wouldn't, he wouldn't take a shit without checking in with a focus group first. And should I wipe my bum this way or that way? And he just doesn't really stand for anything.
Yeah, but it's even funnier because if the focus group had given him instructions, he'd do the exact opposite.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's well, it's a two-party system, isn't it? It's they start to sort of
About to be more.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Thomas, you want to plug Asteroid Savage?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, it's the first of the trilogy. It is a science fiction political thriller, and it
Mm.
is it's be followed by the second book, Late Night Mars, which is coming early July, and then the third book in August. So I think, yeah, it's a slow burner. They're bigger than each book is quite chunky and sort of put together.
Mhm.
It's like quite an epic thing. So it took me a long time to write, as I said, and I'm kind of just glad that they're coming out finally. And it is one of those things where I'm just happy that they're out and people can discover them, in their own time. Um, and I think they're quite meaty. Like there's stuff that's you know in the first couple of pages of the first book that only really become apparent. By the time you get to the final sections of the third book, you realize like, okay. But even then, like you would probably only catch this on a reread. It's one of those things where I because I wrote the first book and the publisher said we like it, but have
Mhm.
you considered writing a trilogy? And of course, the publisher said we want. We not just want to publish this book; we want to publish more. And you're like, sure.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you just have to go off and write them. Um, so I had the advantage of having all three kind of in front of me. I hadn't published anything and kind of set anything in stone. So I was able to kind of tinker with things and kind of make it a whole, three sort of book collection, but it's all very, closely tied in. There's minor characters in the first book that, they'll have relatives or something, pop up in the third book, and you realize, oh, okay, so not nothing is there by chance. And
Mhm.
it is one of those things. I have wet dreams that, one day, 10, 15 years from now, some mad fan will put together a Wikipedia of all this stuff. I mean, I can't be bothered to do it, so I hope someone else does it. But yeah, I mean, it's all there, and it has, it's. I think the first book I finished in 2019, so I've been sitting on it
Oof,
for yeah,
it's
for
been a
that long.
while.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, some of the stuff that's in there, I've sort of rereading it recently. There's stuff about AI in there, and that was before this last
Hmm.
couple of years. And so the AI stuff kind of reads different now.
Hmm.
And then, speaking of politics, I started this book when it was pre-Brexit, for instance, and so yeah, a lot of the stuff I was, certainly pre-Trump, and everything of the last 10 years essentially, but which kind of did find its way in there in a way. So yeah, I'm just happy that it's out there, and so it's very much science fiction, but I think if you like Dark Neon and Dirt, it's very similar.
Hmm.
Star Wars. I mean, you've read it. What do you think? You think it's
Yeah, I mean
comparable?
it's very similar to Dark Neon and Dirt in
Yeah,
terms of a sort of evolving mystery, morally nebulous characters, a sort of dynamic underlying thing going on. I would say it's very similar.
yeah. My wife started reading the science fiction book because again she's a bit like, oh, science fiction, spaceships, whatever. But she's like she's start. I mean, she's because it's a lot chunkier than Dark Neon and Dirt. We've both been busy recently watching Yellowstone,
Yeah.
and so she hasn't read all of it, but she started. She picked up on a few things. She said, oh, all your books kind of well, two that she's read. They start with an explosion. Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. I guess people always say you've got to have an inciting incident, and what's more inciting than a big
A
explosion?
big explosion. Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, "Oh yeah, there's always like a bit of like cat and mouse sexual tension in there." I said, "Well,
Hmm.
yeah."
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on your third appearance on the Dad Lit Pod.
It
Everyone
is,
should
yeah.
go out. It's the Summer of Trang,
Yes.
Asteroid Savage. What are the
She
names
gets
of
a
the two subsequent books?
this Asteroid Savage, and then followed by Late Night Mars, and the third one is called, I don't know if I've revealed this, but it's called Killing a Perfect Beast.
Nice. All from
Yeah.
Atheon Press.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Thank you. I'm keeping you up late. I'm sure you want to go to sleep.
No, no, I might squeeze in another episode of Dutton Ranch or Yellowstone. No.
This has been an episode of the Dadlet Pod.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.